Maya stared at the crumpled $5 bill in her hand, her stomach twisting with anxiety. She sat in her old Honda outside Cafe Luna, watching well-dressed people walk in and out of the fancy glass doors. The parking meter had already eaten 2 of her precious quarters, leaving her with even less money than she'd started with. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror one more time. Her long black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she'd worn her best dress, a navy blue one she'd found at a thrift store 3 months ago. It was clean and pressed, but she knew it probably cost less than most people's coffee orders in this place. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend Lisa. "How's the blind date prep going?" "Ryan is such a catch. Don't mess this up." Maya took a deep breath. Lisa meant well, but she had no idea how different their lives were. While Lisa worked at her family's law firm and lived in a downtown apartment her parents helped pay for, Maya was juggling 2 part-time jobs and taking night classes at the community college. Every dollar mattered, every single one. She'd been working at the campus bookstore since 6 that morning, then rushed to her afternoon shift at a local diner before coming here. Her feet ached in the only nice shoes she owned, black flats with a small scuff on the left toe that she hoped nobody would notice. The cafe looked even more intimidating up close. Through the large windows, she could see couples sharing expensive-looking desserts and business people typing on laptops, while sipping drinks that probably cost more than her hourly wage. Maya glanced at the menu posted outside and felt her heart sink. Even a simple coffee was $8. A sandwich was $15. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app, hoping maybe she'd missed something. The screen showed exactly what she expected, $12.37. After paying for parking and maybe a coffee, she'd have enough left for gas to get home. That was it. Maya thought about leaving. She could text Ryan and make up some excuse, a family emergency, sudden illness, anything. But she'd already canceled on him once last week when her car wouldn't start, and Lisa had spent so much time convincing him to give Maya another chance. "He's perfect for you," Lisa had insisted. "He's got a great job, he's funny, and he specifically asked for someone genuine and down-to-earth." That's totally you. Maya wondered what Lisa had told Ryan about her. Probably not that she ate ramen noodles 4 nights a week, or that she'd been wearing the same winter coat for 3 years. Lisa lived in a different world, one where money wasn't something you counted and recounted before every purchase. Her phone showed 7:58 p.m. Ryan would be here any minute. Through the window, Maya spotted a man at a corner table, typing on a laptop while a steaming mug sat beside him. He had dark hair and was wearing a simple gray sweater. Something about him seemed calm and focused, different from the rushing energy of everyone else in the cafe. A small stuffed elephant sat on the table next to his computer, oddly sweet for a grown man. Maya checked her reflection one more time, grabbed her small purse and walked toward the entrance. The cafe smelled like roasted coffee and fresh pastries, making her empty stomach rumble. She'd skipped lunch to save money, figuring she'd eat during her dinner date. Now she realized how expensive that dinner might be. The hostess, a young woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a name tag reading Jessica, looked Maya up and down with barely concealed judgment. "Do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting someone," Maya said, trying to sound confident. "Ryan Peterson? He might not be here yet." Jessica checked her list with exaggerated importance. "I don't see that name. You can wait at the bar if you'd like." The bar was full and Maya didn't want to order anything yet. She spotted an empty table near the window and asked if she could sit there instead. "That's a 4-top, Jessica said, as if Maya had suggested something completely unreasonable. "For parties of 4 or more." Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "There's a small table by the kitchen," Jessica said, pointing to a cramped spot near the swinging doors where servers rushed back and forth. It was the kind of table restaurants gave to people they didn't think would tip well. "That's fine," Maya said quietly. As she walked to the table, she noticed the man with the laptop glance up at her. Their eyes met for just a moment, and he gave her a small, sympathetic smile. Maya quickly looked away, mortified that a stranger had witnessed her awkward exchange with the hostess. The small table wobbled when she sat down, and she had to steady her water glass to keep it from spilling. A server rushed past, bumping her chair and muttering a quick apology without stopping. Maya checked her phone again. 15 p.m. Ryan was already 15 minutes late. She opened her purse and counted her money one more time, hoping the bills had somehow multiplied. Still $5. She could order coffee and nothing else. Maybe Ryan would understand. Maybe he'd be the kind of person who cared more about getting to know her than about what she could afford to eat. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan, running a bit late. Traffic is crazy. Order whatever you want, my treat. Maya felt a wave of relief followed immediately by guilt. She hated the idea of someone paying for her, but what choice did she have? She couldn't exactly explain that she'd budgeted $5 for the entire evening. She watched the man at the corner table close his laptop and answer his phone. Hey, princess, he said softly, his whole face lighting up. How was school today? Did you remember to give Mrs. Johnson your permission slip? Maya couldn't help but smile. The way he talked, so gentle and interested, reminded her of how her father used to sound when she was little, before he passed away. The stuffed elephant on his table made sense now. It probably belonged to his daughter. I miss you too, sweetheart, the man continued. Daddy will be home soon. Be good for Grandma, okay? I love you to the moon and back. Maya felt a pang of longing. She missed having someone who cared about her day, who worried about her well-being. Lisa was a good friend, but she was busy with her own life. Maya's mother lived 3 states away and worked nights at a hospital. Most evenings, Maya came home to an empty apartment and leftover takeout containers. She checked her phone again. 8:25 p.m. Where was Ryan? The server finally approached her table, looking harried and slightly annoyed. What can I get you? Maya glanced at the menu prices one more time, her heart sinking. Even the coffee was more expensive than she'd thought. Just coffee, please, she said. Regular coffee. What size? Maya looked at the options. Small, medium, large. The small was still $8. Small, please. As the server walked away, Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest. The same feeling she got when she had to choose between groceries and gas, or when she calculated whether she could afford both her textbooks and her electricity bill. She pulled out her phone to distract herself and scrolled through social media, watching friends post pictures of expensive meals and weekend trips she could never afford. Sometimes she wondered if she was fooling herself, thinking she could build a better life through school and hard work. Maybe some people were just meant to struggle. The man at the corner table glanced her way again, and this time Maya caught something in his expression. Not pity, exactly, but understanding. Like maybe he knew what it felt like to sit alone in a fancy place, waiting for someone who might not show up, counting dollars and hoping they'd be enough. At 8:47 p.m., just as Maya was seriously considering leaving, a tall man with perfectly styled blonde hair strutted through the cafe doors. He wore an expensive-looking jacket and was talking loudly on his phone, completely ignoring the hostess who tried to greet him. Yeah, bro, I know it's just a coffee date, but Lisa insisted, Ryan said into his phone, scanning the room. Said this girl really needed to get out more. Some charity case situation, you know. Maya's heart sank. She raised her hand slightly to get his attention, already regretting this entire evening. Ryan spotted her and held up one finger, indicating she should wait while he finished his call. Anyway, I'll make it quick and then meet you guys at the sports bar. Save me a seat. He finally walked over, phone still pressed to his ear. Maya stood up to greet him, but he waved her back down while wrapping up his conversation. Sorry about that, he said, not sounding sorry at all as he finally put his phone away. Business, you know. Always something. Maya forced a smile. No problem. I'm Maya. Right, Ryan. He didn't offer to shake hands or give any other greeting. Instead, he looked her up and down with barely concealed disappointment. So this is the place Lisa picked, huh? Pretty fancy. It is nice, Maya agreed, trying to stay positive. Ryan flagged down a server immediately, the same one who had taken forever to get to Maya's table. We'd like to order, he announced. The server appeared instantly with menus and a bright smile. Of course. What can I start you with? Maya watched in amazement as Ryan commanded the server's attention in a way she never could. It was like he spoke a different language, the language of money and confidence. I'll have the ribeye steak medium rare, Ryan said without even looking at the menu, with the truffle mashed potatoes and asparagus. And bring me your best red wine by the glass. The server scribbled everything down, then looked at Maya expectantly. Just coffee for me, Maya said quietly. Still? The server asked, looking confused. Maya felt her cheeks burn. Yes, please. Ryan looked at her like she'd said something weird. That's it? Just coffee? I'm not really hungry. Maya lied. her empty stomach cramping at the smell of food from nearby tables. Huh. Well, more for me, I guess. Ryan leaned back in his chair, already seeming bored. So Lisa says you're in school? Yes, I'm studying to be a teacher. Elementary education. Oh. Ryan's expression suggested she'd told him she collected garbage for a living. That's nice, not much money in that though, right? Maya tried to keep her voice steady. It's not about the money. I love working with kids, and sure. Everyone needs hobbies. Ryan pulled out his phone and started scrolling. Me, I'm in sales. Medical equipment. Really good money. Just bought a new BMW last month. Fully loaded, leather everything. Maya nodded politely, not knowing what to say. She'd never even been inside a BMW. Cost me more than most people make in a year. Ryan continued, showing her a photo on his phone. But you gotta spend money to make money, right? Image is everything in sales. From the corner table, David tried to focus on his laptop, but he couldn't help overhearing the conversation. Something about the woman's quiet discomfort and the man's bragging was bothering him. He glanced over and saw her fidgeting with her napkin, looking increasingly uncomfortable. Ryan's food arrived quickly. A massive steak with elaborate sides that looked like something from a cooking show. Maya's coffee came with it, looking tiny and plain next to his feast. This looks perfect, Ryan said to the server, cutting into his steak immediately. You sure you don't want anything? He asked Maya, his mouth already full. I'm sure, Maya said, wrapping her hands around her coffee mug for comfort. David noticed she hadn't touched her coffee yet, probably because she was worried about the cost. He'd seen people do that before. Order something they couldn't afford and then not consume it because each sip represented money they didn't have. So anyway, Ryan continued between bites, I'm thinking about getting a boat this summer. Nothing crazy, just a 30-footer. Perfect for entertaining clients, you know? Maya nodded along, feeling more out of place by the minute. She tried to think of something interesting to contribute to the conversation, but everything in her life seemed small compared to his expensive lifestyle. Do you like being on the water? She asked. Love it. Been jet skiing since I was a kid. My parents have a place at the lake, 3 bedrooms right on the water. We go there most weekends during the summer. Maya had never been on a boat in her life. The closest she'd come to a lake vacation was driving past one on her way to visit her mother last Christmas. Ryan's phone buzzed, and he immediately picked it up. Oh, this is important. Give me 1 second. 1 second turned into 5 minutes, then 10. Maya sat there drinking her coffee slowly, trying to make it last, while Ryan paced near their table having an animated conversation about golf and weekend plans. David found himself watching the situation with growing irritation. The woman, he still didn't know her name, sat patiently, occasionally checking her phone, but mostly just waiting. Her date was talking loudly enough that half the cafe could hear him discussing his expensive hobbies and complaining about his country club's new rules. Bro, I told you the new driver was worth every penny, Ryan said, not bothering to lower his voice. $1,800, but it's already improved my game. Maya's eyes widened at the number. $1,800 would cover her rent for 3 months. When Ryan finally returned to the table, he didn't apologize. Instead, he dove back into his food and launched into a story about his recent ski trip to Colorado. The powder was incredible this year. Spent a week in Aspen, you ever been? Maya shook her head. You'd love it. Well, maybe. It's pretty expensive. Lift tickets alone are like $200 a day, plus lodging, food, equipment rental. Probably ran me $3,000 for the week, but totally worth it. David watched Maya's face carefully. She was trying so hard to look interested and engaged, but he could see the strain around her eyes. This wasn't just about being bored by someone's bragging. She looked genuinely distressed. The crazy part, Ryan continued, is my buddy Jake spent $5,000 on the same trip. $5,000. Can you believe that? I mean, I've got money, but I'm not stupid with it. Maya almost choked on her coffee. $5,000 was more than she made in 4 months of part-time work. Ryan's phone rang again. Sorry, this is my boss. I really need to take this. This time he walked outside, leaving Maya alone at the table. She immediately pulled out her phone and opened her banking app, double-checking her balance with growing anxiety. The coffee had cost $8.50 with tax. She had enough to pay for it barely, but that would leave her with less than $1. David noticed her checking her phone with the focused intensity of someone doing math they didn't want to do. He'd seen that look before, the careful calculation of someone living paycheck to paycheck. Ryan was still outside, gesturing wildly while talking on his phone. Through the window, David could see him checking his watch and looking impatient. Maya sat alone, stirring her coffee slowly, making it last. She kept glancing toward the door, probably hoping Ryan would come back soon. But David had a feeling this evening was about to get worse for her. The server approached Maya's table with the check, setting it down discreetly. Maya's face went pale as she looked at the total. Ryan was still outside, completely absorbed in his phone call, showing no signs of coming back anytime soon. Maya stared at the check with growing panic. $28.50. Ryan's steak dinner was $20. Her coffee was $8.50. She had exactly $4.63 left in her account after parking. Through the window, she could see Ryan still pacing outside, completely absorbed in his phone conversation. He was laughing and gesturing, clearly in no hurry to return. Maya's hand started to shake slightly as she realized the situation she was in. The server, a young woman named Katie, noticed Maya's distress. "Everything okay, honey?" "Yes, I'm fine," Maya lied, trying to smile. "My date is just finishing a call." Katie glanced outside at Ryan, who was now leaning against a car, completely relaxed. "Take your time. No rush." But Maya knew there was a rush. The cafe was busy. People were waiting for tables, and she couldn't sit here forever hoping Ryan would come back and handle the bill like a gentleman. From his corner table, David had been watching the whole situation unfold. He'd seen the woman's face go pale when she looked at the check, and he'd watched her date spend the last 15 minutes outside, seemingly forgetting he'd left someone waiting. David had been in enough business dinners to recognize when someone was in an uncomfortable spot. His daughter always told him he should help people more. "Daddy, if someone looks sad, you should be nice to them," she'd said just last week. 8-year-old wisdom that often proved more valuable than any business advice. Ryan finally ended his call and walked back inside, but instead of sitting down, he remained standing next to the table. "Sorry about that," he said, not looking sorry at all. "That was my boss about a big deal closing tomorrow." He glanced at his expensive watch. "Actually, I just remembered I'm supposed to meet some colleagues at Murphy's Sports Bar. They're celebrating a promotion." Maya felt her stomach drop. "Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah, so I should probably head out." Ryan reached for his wallet, pulled out a $20 bill and placed it on the table. "That should cover my meal. The coffee's on you, right?" "I mean, it's just coffee." Maya stared at the $20 bill, which would cover Ryan's steak but leave her responsible for her $8.50 coffee plus tax and tip. Money she didn't have. "Right," she managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. "Cool. Well, this was fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime." Ryan was already putting his jacket back on, clearly eager to leave. "Tell Lisa I said thanks for the setup." And just like that, he was gone, walking out of the cafe without a backward glance. Maya sat alone at the wobbly table, staring at the $20 bill and the check that still needed $28.50. She felt tears threatening to form in her eyes but blinked them back. She would not cry in public. She would figure this out. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app again, hoping somehow the numbers had changed. They hadn't. $4.63. She could ask Katie if she could pay just for the coffee and leave Ryan's food unpaid, but that felt wrong. It wasn't the server's fault her date had turned out to be a selfish jerk. Maya considered calling Lisa, but what would she say? "Hey, your perfect match just ditched me with a bill I can't afford?" Lisa would probably offer to help, but Maya had already borrowed money from her twice this month for textbooks. David watched the young woman struggle with her phone, clearly trying to figure out a solution to her problem. The decent thing to do would be to mind his own business. But something about her situation reminded him of his own struggles years ago, before his company took off. When he'd counted every dollar and worried about every bill, he closed his laptop, picked up the small stuffed elephant that belonged to his daughter, and walked over to Maya's table. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I couldn't help but notice your friend left in a hurry. I'm sitting alone over there and I hate eating by myself. Would you mind if I joined you?" Maya looked up surprised. It was the man from the corner table, the one who'd been talking sweetly to his daughter on the phone earlier. Up close, she could see kind eyes and a genuine smile. "Oh, that's very nice of you, but I was actually just leaving," Maya said, trying to sound casual. "Really? You haven't touched your coffee and it's still steaming hot." David gestured to her untouched mug. Plus, I already ordered way too much food. The server's bringing out enough pasta to feed 3 people. As if on cue, Katie appeared with a large plate of creamy fettuccine alfredo and a side of garlic bread. See what I mean? David said to Maya. I have a habit of over-ordering when I'm nervous about business calls. My daughter always tells me to share when I have too much. He held up the small elephant. This is hers, by the way. She makes me take it to important meetings for good luck. Despite everything, Maya smiled slightly. That's sweet. She's 8 and believes stuffed animals have magical powers. Who am I to argue? David set the elephant on the table between them. So what do you say? Help me out with this pasta. I promise I'm more interesting company than my laptop. Maya hesitated. This stranger was clearly trying to help her. And while part of her was embarrassed, another part was grateful that someone had noticed her distress. I don't want to intrude on your evening, she said. Trust me, you'd be doing me a favor. I spend way too many nights eating alone and working. My daughter's at her grandmother's tonight, which means I'll probably just go home and answer emails until midnight if I don't have a reason to stay out. There was something honest about the way he said it that made Maya believe he genuinely wanted company, not just to rescue her from an awkward situation. Okay, she said finally, but just for a little while. David smiled and sat down across from her. I'm David, by the way. Maya. Nice to meet you, Maya. David pushed the pasta toward the center of the table. So that guy who just left, friend of yours? Maya felt her cheeks burn. Blind date, actually. My first and probably last. Ah. David nodded knowingly. Those can be rough. I haven't dated in years, but I remember the whole thing being pretty stressful. Years? Maya asked, then immediately worried she was being nosy. Sorry, that's none of my business. No, it's fine. I'm a single dad, have been for about 4 years now. Between work and raising my daughter, there isn't much time for dating. Honestly, I'm not sure I'd even remember how to do it anymore. Maya relaxed slightly. There was something comforting about talking to someone who seemed as uncertain about dating as she felt. What's your daughter's name? She asked. Lucy. She's the light of my life and also the reason I carry around a stuffed elephant. David picked up the toy and made it wave at Maya, who laughed despite herself. She sounds adorable. She is, also incredibly wise for an 8-year-old. She told me last week that adults worry too much about stupid things and not enough about important things like ice cream and bedtime stories. Maya found herself smiling genuinely for the first time all evening. She might be onto something. David served them both pasta, and Maya realized how hungry she actually was. The warm, creamy food was exactly what she needed after such a stressful evening. So what do you do when you're not being abandoned by blind dates? David asked with a gentle smile. 3 weeks had passed since that terrible blind date, and Maya found herself looking forward to her Tuesday and Thursday evenings at Cafe Luna more than anything else in her week. It had become their routine. David would finish his work calls around 7, and Maya would arrive after her shift at the campus bookstore. They'd share dinner and talk about everything and nothing. Tonight, Maya was running 5 minutes late because her old Honda had taken 3 tries to start. When she walked into the cafe, David was already at their usual table by the window, the little stuffed elephant sitting in its familiar spot next to his simple black coffee. Sorry I'm late, Maya said, sliding into the chair across from him. Car trouble again, no worries. I ordered your usual, the tomato soup and grilled cheese. David smiled warmly. And before you argue about it, remember our deal. I eat here for work anyway, and you're keeping me company. Maya had stopped fighting him on paying for dinner after the first week. David had a way of making it seem natural, like she was doing him the favor. He'd mentioned that he ate most meals alone since his daughter stayed with her grandmother during school nights, and Maya genuinely enjoyed their conversations. How's Lucy doing with her reading homework? Maya asked. David always lit up when talking about his daughter. Better. She finished an entire chapter book last night, Charlotte's Web. She cried at the end, though. David pulled out his phone and showed Maya a photo Lucy had drawn. A spider with "some pig" written above a smiling pig. She made this for her teacher. That's adorable. She's really talented. She gets that from her mom, David said quietly. Maya had learned that Lucy's mother had passed away when Lucy was 4, but David rarely talked about it in detail. Their food arrived, and Maya savored the warmth of the soup. After eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches most nights, having a real dinner felt like a luxury. How are your classes going? David asked. He always remembered to ask about her studies. Good, but tough. I have this education psychology class that's kicking my butt. The professor assigns so much reading and the textbooks are incredibly expensive. Maya stirred her soup thoughtfully. Sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy for trying to become a teacher. The pay isn't great and everyone keeps telling me I should pick something more practical. What does your heart tell you? David asked. That I love working with kids. When I volunteer at the after-school program, and I see a child finally understand something they've been struggling with. There's nothing like it. Maya's face brightened. Like this one boy, Tommy. He couldn't read at all at the beginning of the year. Now he's reading picture books to the younger kids. He's so proud of himself. David watched her talk, noting how her whole demeanor changed when she discussed teaching. Her eyes sparkled and she used her hands to gesture excitedly. He'd never met anyone so passionate about helping others, especially given her own financial struggles. You'll be an amazing teacher, he said simply. You think so? Even though I'm 26 and still in school? Even though I work 2 jobs and can barely afford my textbooks? Especially because of those things. You understand what it's like to struggle. You won't take your students' challenges for granted. Maya felt a familiar warmth in her chest whenever David said things like that. He had a way of making her feel valuable and capable, even when she doubted herself. What about you? Do you like your work? Maya realized she still knew very little about David's job. He'd mentioned working in technology and having flexible hours, but he was always vague about the details. It pays the bills and gives me time with Lucy, that's what matters most. David shifted uncomfortably. He'd been dreading this conversation for weeks, knowing he should tell Maya the truth about his company, his success, his wealth. But every time he tried, he remembered how she looked that first night, embarrassed and vulnerable. He didn't want money to change how she saw him. Must be nice to have flexible hours. Most of my professors don't understand that some students have to work full-time to afford school. David felt a pang of guilt. Maya had no idea that he could pay for her entire education without even noticing the expense, but he'd seen how proud she was, how hard she worked for everything. Would she hate him if she knew the truth, Maya? A familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. They both turned to see Lisa approaching their table, her designer purse swinging from her arm and her perfectly styled hair catching the cafe's warm lighting. Lisa! Hi. Maya stood up to hug her friend. What are you doing here? Meeting a client for coffee. But more importantly, who's this? Lisa's eyes moved to David with obvious curiosity. This is David. David, this is my best friend Lisa. David stood and extended his hand politely. Nice to meet you. Lisa shook his hand, studying his face intently. Something flickered in her expression. Recognition, maybe surprise. David. Have we met before? You look really familiar. I don't think so, David said carefully. I have one of those faces. Lisa continued staring at him. David what? What's your last name? Maya noticed David's discomfort. Lisa, you're being weird. Chen, David said reluctantly. David Chen. Lisa's eyes widened suddenly. Oh my God, you're David Chen, from Chen Technologies. Maya looked confused. What's Chen Technologies? Maya, honey, your boyfriend is on the cover of Business Weekly magazine this month. Tech CEO of the Year. His company is worth like $50 million. The color drained from Maya's face. She stared at David, waiting for him to laugh and tell Lisa she was crazy. But David just sat there looking guilty and trapped. Is that true? Maya asked quietly. David closed his eyes briefly. Maya, I can explain. Is it true? She repeated, her voice sharper now. Yes, but... Maya stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Other diners turned to look at the commotion. You lied to me, she whispered. For 3 weeks you've been lying to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. You let me sit here talking about my money problems, my struggles with textbooks, my piece of crap car. You watched me worry about every dollar while you're some millionaire CEO? Maya's voice was rising despite her efforts to keep it quiet. Lisa looked uncomfortable. Maybe I should go. No, stay, Maya said without taking her eyes off David. I'm the one who's leaving. Maya, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. What is it then? Some kind of social experiment? Rich guy wants to see how the poor people live? Tears were forming in Maya's eyes, but they were angry tears. Did you think it was cute watching me count my money? Did it make you feel good about yourself? Playing hero for the struggling college girl? That's not why. 3 weeks, David. 3 weeks you sat there and watched me be embarrassed about things that wouldn't even register as expenses for you. That coffee I couldn't afford that first night probably costs less than you spend on lunch every day. David reached for her hand, but Maya pulled away. You made me feel pathetic. All this time I thought we had something real, something equal. But you were just, what, slumming it? Seeing how the other half lives? Maya, that's not true. What we have is real. No, it's not. Because I don't even know who you really are. Maya grabbed her purse and jacket. I shared everything with you. My dreams, my fears, my embarrassing financial disasters. And you shared nothing real with me. Nothing true. She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at him. That first night when you said I was helping you by keeping you company, that was a lie too, wasn't it? You were just helping the poor girl who couldn't pay for her coffee. David stood up. Maya, wait. But she was already walking toward the door, leaving David standing by their table with Lucy's stuffed elephant and the weight of his terrible mistake. 2 months had passed since Maya walked out of Cafe Luna, and she'd avoided the place completely. Even driving past it on her way to work made her stomach twist with a mixture of anger and sadness. She missed David, or at least, she missed the person she thought David was. Maya was rushing between her morning shift at the campus bookstore and her afternoon classes when she found the envelope in her mailbox. Her name was typed on expensive letterhead from the Henderson Educational Foundation. Inside was a letter that made her hands shake. Dear Maya Rodriguez, congratulations. You have been selected to receive the Henderson Foundation Emergency Scholarship for Outstanding Education Students. This scholarship will cover your remaining tuition and textbook expenses for the current academic year. No application was required. You were nominated by faculty members who recognized your dedication and potential. Maya read the letter 3 times, hardly believing it. She'd never heard of the Henderson Foundation, and she certainly hadn't applied for any scholarships recently. The amount would cover everything she needed to finish school without working extra shifts or eating ramen every night. She called the foundation immediately, but the receptionist could only tell her that the scholarship was funded by an anonymous donor who specifically requested to help local students pursuing teaching degrees. That weekend, Maya's car finally gave up completely. She was stranded in the parking lot of her weekend job at the diner when a tow truck driver appeared seemingly out of nowhere. You Maya Rodriguez? He asked. Yes? Lucky day. Tony's auto shop sent me. Said someone prepaid for your tow and repairs. Full service, whatever it needs. I'm sorry, what? I didn't call anyone. Says here on my work order. Anonymous customer paid in advance. Must have heard about your car trouble somehow. Maya was too stressed about being late for work to argue. At Tony's shop, the mechanic was equally mysterious. Someone called this morning, said you'd be coming in. Paid for everything up front. Engine work, new tires, the whole deal. Said to make it reliable for a hard-working student. Who paid for it? Tony shrugged. Didn't leave a name. But hey, your car will run like new. Maya started to piece things together when she got a call from her professor the following week. Maya, I have good news. The after-school program at Lincoln Elementary is looking for a paid assistant. It's perfect for an education major, and the hours work around your class schedule. The coordinator specifically asked for you. Asked for me? How do they even know me? That's the interesting part. Someone recommended you highly. Said you were the best volunteer they'd ever seen with children. They're offering $15 an hour, 20 hours a week. Maya's heart started racing. The job was exactly what she needed. Relevant experience and enough money to quit her stressful diner shifts. But the timing was too convenient to be coincidental. That evening, Maya drove her newly repaired car to the Lincoln Elementary after-school program to meet the coordinator. The building was modern and well-funded, with bright classrooms and happy children's artwork covering the walls. Maya, we're so excited to have you, said Mrs. Patterson, the program director. Your reference spoke so highly of your work with children. Said you have a natural gift for helping kids who are struggling. My reference? David Chen. He called personally to recommend you. Said he'd seen you work with children and that you were exactly what our program needed. Maya's world tilted slightly. David Chen recommended me? Oh, yes. His daughter Lucy is one of our students. Lovely little girl. She talks about her daddy all the time. Mrs. Patterson smiled warmly. He mentioned that you'd been tutoring children in reading and that you had a special way of making learning fun. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Lucy is here? Would you like to meet her? She's in the reading corner. Maya followed Mrs. Patterson across the room to where a small girl with dark pigtails was sitting cross-legged, reading aloud to a stuffed elephant. Maya's heart clenched as she recognized the toy from all those evenings at the cafe. "Lucy, there's someone I'd like you to meet," Mrs. Patterson said gently. Lucy looked up with bright, curious eyes that looked exactly like David's. "Hi, I'm Lucy. This is Mr. Peanuts." She held up the stuffed elephant. "He helps me read better." "Hello, Lucy, I'm Maya. Mr. Peanuts looks like a very good reading helper." "He is. My daddy gave him to me. He says Mr. Peanuts has magic powers for helping people feel brave when they're scared." Maya knelt down to Lucy's level. "Your daddy sounds very smart." "He is, but he's been sad lately. He keeps looking at his phone and sighing. Grandma says he misses someone, but he won't tell me who." Lucy leaned closer and whispered, "I think it's a girl." Maya's heart ached. She spent the next hour playing with Lucy and the other children, reading stories and helping with homework. Lucy was exactly as David had described, smart, funny, and incredibly sweet. When it was time for pickup, Lucy grabbed Maya's hand. "Will you be here tomorrow? I like you. You remind me of someone, but I can't remember who." "I'll be here," Maya promised. As parents arrived to collect their children, Maya stepped outside for some air. Her phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Girl, we need to talk. Meet me at Cafe Luna in 20 minutes. It's important." Maya hesitated, then drove to the cafe. Lisa was waiting at a corner table, not the one Maya and David used to share. "Before you get mad at me for bringing you here," Lisa said quickly, "you need to see this." She handed Maya a business magazine. David's photo was on the cover, but the headline made Maya's breath catch. "Tech CEO donates millions to education. Anonymous scholarships help hundreds of students." Maya read the article with growing amazement. David's company had donated $15 million to create scholarships and educational programs across the state. The Henderson Foundation was one of several organizations he funded, specifically to help students who were working multiple jobs to pay for school. "Maya, he's been doing this for years," Lisa said quietly, "long before he met you. The article says he grew up poor and worked 3 jobs to put himself through college." Maya looked up from the magazine. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I was wrong about him. And maybe you were too." Lisa reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "I saw how he looked at you that night. That wasn't some rich guy playing games. That was a man who was terrified of losing something important." Maya stared at David's photo on the magazine cover. In it, he looked serious and professional, but she could still see the gentle eyes of the man who'd carried a stuffed elephant to business meetings and worried about his daughter's reading homework. "He could have told me the truth," Maya whispered. "Could he? Really? Think about how you reacted when you found out. You assumed the worst immediately." Maya closed her eyes, remembering her angry words that night. She'd accused him of treating her like a charity case without giving him a chance to explain. Her phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. Maya stared at it for several seconds before answering. "Hello? Maya, I heard you met Lucy today. She's wonderful. Just like you said she was. She likes you. She asked me if you were the nice lady I've been sad about." Maya felt tears starting. "David, I know you probably don't want to see me, but could we talk? Just for a few minutes. Lucy has something she wants to give you." An hour later, Maya found herself standing outside David's front door, her heart pounding. When it opened, Lucy launched herself into Maya's arms. "Maya, Daddy said you might come over?" Lucy grabbed her hand and pulled her inside. "I made you something." The house was warm and lived in, filled with Lucy's artwork and photos of father and daughter adventures. David stood in the doorway looking nervous and hopeful. Lucy presented Maya with a drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's me, that's Daddy, and that's you, because you make Daddy smile again." David's eyes met Maya's over Lucy's head. "We need to talk." They sat on the couch while Lucy played nearby. David took a deep breath. "I grew up in a trailer park. My mom worked 2 jobs and we still barely had enough to eat most months. When I started making money, people changed around me. Friends wanted loans, dates wanted expensive gifts, everyone had their hand out." David's voice was quiet but steady. "When I met you that night, you looked at me and saw just me, not my bank account or my company. For the first time in years, someone cared about what I thought, how my day went, whether I was happy." Maya listened, seeing the vulnerable man behind the successful facade. I was selfish, David continued. I wanted to keep being just David, Lucy's dad who likes coffee and worries about bedtime stories. I was afraid if you knew about the money, you'd either want something from me or feel like we were too different to be together. I felt like you made me pathetic, Maya said softly. You're the strongest person I know. You work 2 jobs, go to school, and still volunteer to help kids in your spare time. You're not pathetic. You're amazing. Lucy looked up from her toys. Daddy, are you and Maya going to be friends again? Because I really like her and she makes you not sad anymore. Maya looked at this little girl who carried a stuffed elephant for courage, and at David, who'd been terrified of being valued only for his wealth. She thought about the scholarship, the car repair, the job recommendation. Always he'd tried to help without making her feel small. I'd like to be friends again, Maya said, looking at David. But this time, no secrets. We're equal partners in whatever this is, or we're nothing. David smiled. The real smile she remembered from their cafe conversations. Equal partners. I'd like that, Lucy clapped her hands. Does this mean Maya can come to my school play next week? Maya laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. I wouldn't miss it. 6 months later, Maya graduated with her teaching degree. David and Lucy were in the front row, cheering as she walked across the stage. The scholarship had helped, but Maya had earned every credit through her own hard work and determination. After the ceremony, David pulled out a small velvet box. Before you say anything, he said quickly, this isn't some expensive ring. Lucy and I went to the craft store and made it ourselves. Inside the box was a simple silver band with a small charm shaped like an elephant. For courage, David said softly. And because elephants never forget the people they love, Lucy added importantly. Maya slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed them both. She'd found something more valuable than money or security. She'd found a family that valued her exactly as she was.